Okay, so I'm currently working on this Rivarossi Baltimore and Ohio C-14, I believe, engine. Um, yeah, so this is the kind with the tender. They also had the kind without the tender, which is a docksider. And this has been quite a long project. So if you guys didn't know, the original mechanism for this thing was really loud and noisy. Also, so it had a three-pole motor, a ginormous three-pole motor, those classic Rivarossi, round ones, pancake sort of type ones, and it had the brass worm gear and the steel worm gear. And the problem with that mechanism was that one, the gear ratio was like it was really small, so it was like one to 8 or something like that. It was really small. So what it resulted in was a top speed of like over 100 scale miles per hour. And this was the original mechanism here. Now, well, it's not the original one, but this is the original chassis here. So I tried replacing the gears with Northwest Shortline gears, but I made the mistake of also buying a steel worm and a brass worm gear instead of a plastic one. And so also I didn't do a really great job motoring this thing, so I kind of just abandoned this. The gears were like 15 bucks, so it's kind of 15 bucks on the drain plus a can motor down the drain. The original mechanism, I also grinded the wheels down with a file, so they're actually code 83, so the pizza cutter flanges didn't actually touch the track. So this mechanism worked. It ran smoothly. It just was kind of noisy because of the steel worm and rubbing on the brass worm gear. And overall, it was just kind of an outdated mechanism. So what I did was, if you guys didn't know, IHC, after they bought Rivarossi, they actually produced the docksiders. So they actually revamped the docksiders with a new mechanism. So this mechanism, as you can see, differs a little bit. This one's actually made of metal. It's a bent sheet metal. So it actually added a bit more weight, but also because of the metal and there's no bearings, the steel wheels would rub against the metal chassis and as a result cause even more noise. Whereas the IHC one or Mehano one has a plastic frame, which means that the bearings are plastic, but it's like a really slippery plastic, so it's actually not that bad. It's actually better than the metal one because it's more quiet. It also replaced the I forget what it's called here, the piston, I don't know what you call it, but yeah, the piston with a plastic one. And they also, the important thing is that they replaced the crappy motor with a can motor. And in fact, it was like this. So basically, it was a really plain 3-pole can motor, but with this kind of mount. So it'd mount flat instead of vertical, instead of like this, it was like flat. And that worked because it was a docksider and there was this huge cab. But the problem is, so I took the docksiders mechanism from the IHC era, and I was trying to fit it into this cab, which obviously has a much more narrow area here. And so what I had to do is I had to modify this to mount a can motor vertically. I also had to modify the back here because the pins in the back here that mount into the docksider is much higher than the pins that mounted in the IHC one. These are much lower, and also it's just a bit thicker. So anyways, I had to modify the chassis. I used a Dremel and I used clippers, and I just I removed a lot of plastic in the back here, not only to lower to find place for to mount a motor vertically, but also to have the pins match the correct height as the original thing here. In fact, if we put these down, because now this mechanism is plastic, it's a lot lighter in the front, so unfortunately it doesn't stay like that. But if we put them against each other, you can see that the pins align more or less the same. So yeah, the pins are now the correct height. So basically, this mechanism now has I changed the way the motor mounts, and so this way I also use silicone glue to glue it down. But I basically modified the way the motor mounts, but I still use the original plastic gears, which that's another upgrade. The plastic gears helped or are a lot quieter. They're still pretty fast in gear ratio, but they're a lot quieter because they're both plastic, which isn't great for longevity, but it's fine. So yeah, overall, this mechanism is much better than the original Rivarossi one. In fact, the IHC docksider I have runs great, but I wanted to basically get another docksider and put that chassis underneath this engine here. So that's what I did here. I just made the motor, I mounted it vertically, I removed a lot of material, so this now mounts onto the shell properly. No, I can't really do this one hand. There we go. Yeah, so it mounts properly As you can see, the boiler is level, and the motor fits in perfectly. And so now with the chassis mechanism more or less done, I just need to wire the wires from the pickup contacts to the motor itself. This mechanism is now complete. I just need to do the wiring, but I figured I might as well also add DCC sound into this engine, because I did have a spare Tsunami 750 decoder, which is designed for N scale. But anyways, yeah. So now with the mechanism, now with the engine more or less done, I also will replace the incandescent bulb, which looks like this, with an LED bulb. But regardless, with the mechanism down, now I'm working on the tender here. So the tender chassis looks like this. Originally the coupler was truck mounted, so I clipped that off, as you can see. And then I just mounted a Kadee coupler box with a Kadee coupler at the proper height with a styrene little, what do you call it? So it increases, so it makes so the coupler height's at the correct level. And then right now I'm trying to figure out a way to install a speaker, decoder, and super capacitors to fit into the tender. So I'm also gonna, so because this engine only has 4 pickups, and tender originally didn't come with any pickups, in fact actually came with plastic wheels, which I swapped with these metal wheels, which are much nicer. But I want to increase the power pickup here, so I'm gonna be using these pickups on the tender. I figured I'd put them like, shoot, I can't do this with one hand. I'll just use this one, and yeah, it'll basically be like that. So the tender will pick up 2 wheels on each side, so this will pick up from the left and this will pick up from the right. And so this way there are 4 pickup eight pickup points instead of 4 pickup points for the loco. Ideally all 8 wheels in the tender picked up power, but I'm too lazy to do that, so I'm just gonna do the 4 wheels the pickup power along with the 4 wheels from the engine. And then I'm gonna try fitting a keep alive into here. So I think this is the best way to do it, to fit everything. But basically I have the speaker. Now keep in mind that the chassis actually sits at the at that kind of line. You can kind of see that line on the side of the tender there. And so basically that's how the chassis will fit. The original weight on the chassis also takes up a little bit of space, so I need to account for that. So, you know, I need to account for that. But I think I found a way to fit everything inside. Basically I'll have the speaker fit in at around this area. And then I have the decoder vertically, or sitting flat, sitting up instead of flat. And then I have, I'll be removing this capacitor because we don't need that anymore. And I was debating between using 2 of these, which are each 1,500 microfarads, 25 volts, which would equal up to 3,000 microfarads, which is very little. 3,000 microfarads is what, 0.3 farads? I'm not really sure how that math works out. I'm not good in doing math on top of my head. But anyways, that would have been okay, but I wanted to find a bigger capacitor. And also these didn't really fit because they're too tall. When you put them into the tender here, they're too tall. They don't quite make the level here because you won't have enough space for the chassis. So these were a bit too big. I was considering fitting them on the top of the cab roof there, but it didn't really fit either. I tried. So I'm gonna end up wiring 3 of these in series. And these are 5.5 volt 1 farad capacitors. So you add these 3 up and it will become what is that, 16.5 volts and 1 farad. I believe capacitors, if you wire them in series, they also they also subtract in farads. But anyways, regardless, this should add up to about a 16.5 volts and maybe up to 1 farad's worth of capacitance, and that should give an engine about 5 seconds of power when track power is disconnected, which should be more than enough for the engine to go past dirty track. So that should work out. And also a plus side of having 3 flat capacitors is that you can put them in different ways, so you can manage to fit them better than the 2 round ones. And so my method is to have 2 of them stacked up here, and this is a slope back tender, so this place decreases in volume as you go to the right. So I have 2 stacked up on the left. You know, I'm just gonna redo this, and I'll be right back. Okay, so basically I'm back. I just organized it with my 2 hands. But yeah, I have 2 stacked on the left here. I have that one which sits there, and it actually, because there's a little bit of space beneath the speaker on the left side, that kind of just slides. The third one slides beneath the speaker a little bit. And the speaker sits right against, you know, as far as you can push it down, because it is a slope, as I said, on the bottom. So that's where that goes. And then basically the decoder will just sit flat against this wall here. And that should be able to fit all the components inside the tender. The tender, as a result, I did have this piece of weight. I actually had this other piece of weight here also weighing it down, but that's where the speaker will go, so it's not enough space. But with that weight removed, but then you also got to keep in mind you're adding all the weight from the capacitors, then the speaker, which isn't much weight, and the decoder. That should account for that. So the tender should be fairly heavy, and that means that the engine is more or less empty inside. Unfortunately, I don't really have a way to counteract the fact that this chassis is now lighter. I can only really fit the original weight inside the engine, which this piece basically goes inside the engine here. Goes inside the boiler. The motor will take a little bit of weight. That piece of metal will take a little bit of weight. I'm also going to try to find a way to put some weight inside the crevice of the steam dome here. You can see there's some holes in there. I might try to tap some lead weights inside there. I could also add some weights on top of the cab here. Although I don't know if that's such a great idea, because I don't want the weight to be off balance. I don't want too much weight on the rear and not enough weight in the front. So if it becomes too heavy on the rear, I could try adding some weight on the top of the cab. But yeah, I don't want it to be off balance. So yeah, it'll probably be about that heavy, and that should be enough weight to pull a small train. This is an 040 after all, so it doesn't need to pull too much. But yeah, that's the hope. So that's what I have coming, what I have planned. Now I just need to actually execute this and wire all this up. So yeah, I'll let you guys know then. All right, and I'm back here with the engine part, complete with the the full install and upgrade. So as I said, the motor is mounted. I actually remounted it because it wasn't at quite enough angle. So I just re-glued it with some silicone glue. I also decided to add some weight to this engine. So as you can see, I managed to cram a little bit of weight here. This is lead weight. They come in shapes like this, and they're very malleable. So I just used some pliers here, and I just cut it. You can also bend it and shape it with a hammer and an anvil. That's how I actually managed to shape this one here. It was originally just a flat piece like this, and I just shaped it and made it round, kind of like a bullet, and I managed to cram it in there. So that one took a bit of time, but that really adds some weight to the engine, because I mean, it's really hard to add weight to the front side of this engine with the boiler being so small. Yeah, and then the cab here, there's a whole lot of space in the cab here. I can actually add 3 of these in the cab here, but I didn't want to, because the problem is, when you add weight, you want the engine to ideally be balanced on their drivers. So, with the motor being so heavy, the rear side tends to have too much weight, and so what I realized was if I add any more weight besides that, the rear would be way too heavy, and so this wheel, while this wheel's traction will be increased, the front wheel will kind of be lifted off, and as a result, the front wheel will actually add less traction to the engine. Which is not good. So what I found out through trial and error is that 0.25 ounce weight, quarter ounce weight in the rear here is more than you need. It's more than enough. And if you add any more, it's not good. It makes the balance off. So yeah, so I added 3 pieces of weight. That one's simple. This one took a bit of time, and this one I managed to cram in the front here. And then obviously the original lead weight here, which originally housed an incandescent bulb, as I said. Now I fit an LED inside there with a resistor in line, and this simply slides through the front. You can't slide through the back, you gotta slide through the front. And then this plug here simply just connects to this plug here, and yeah, so everything wires up there. Yeah, so that's pretty much it for the mechanism. I also wired everything together already. So this 6-pin plug will plug into the tender. As far as the engine, like detail wise, it's honestly fine. There's some things I can upgrade. I can upgrade this to like a brass whistle. Well, this is actually the safety valve, but I could add a brass whistle. I could replace the generator here, which is kind of crude. I could replace the sand lines. I could replace the cab handrails. But honestly, like they already look fine the way they are. I could also replace the cylinder here, which this could be a potential upgrade, but I don't want to spend too much time into this engine. It's a really basic engine. I don't want to spend that much time super detailing it. It's fine the way it is, honestly. I'm happy with how it looks from the factory. So yeah, there's definitely things you can upgrade, but I think it looks fine the way it is. And so I won't be doing much upgrades there. But yeah, so that's pretty much it for the engine. Now we'll move on to the tender. Okay, and the tender, unfortunately, the wiring is a bit of a nightmare. So it's kind of hard to improve the wiring though with such limited space. So the speaker I have glued down to the bottom. I have the 3 capacitors right here, so the speaker kind of overlaps with this capacitor right here. I have the speaker grills, or the speaker holes drilled out on the bottom here. Unfortunately, I can't show you right now because I don't want to mess this up, but I have a photo I'll show you guys later during the video. The wiring, as I said, is kind of a nightmare, but you know, you don't see that, and all you see is this little tiny plug that sticks out from the front, so that's all that really matters. I still gotta paint the wires black so you don't see that stuff, but yeah, the tender actually wiring worked out really well. The only thing that I tried to reassemble this, and the only thing I found out that wasn't really working was that the capacitors are so heavy and the decoder so light that once you put the tender back on the chassis, there's a lot of like wobble, and so as a result the tender kind of just like sits sideways, you know, it like wobbles to one side because it's just so heavy on one side. So I will have to find a way to cram some weight into probably the decoder side so it evens out, but that'll be interesting. And but yeah, so that's pretty much how it looks. It's not the prettiest scene, but it should work fine. Alright, now we have the engine on the track. We're gonna power this up for the first time. I'll power this up live. So track power is on. And there she is. Alright, so number 3. That's fine. There's no momentum programmed in, so the stop is kind of sudden. Let's see if the headlight works. Hey, look at that. And then how about the rear light? Awesome, it all works. The default whistle is kind of weird. Let's see if the keep alive works. So we're gonna take this engine off the track. Yep, works fine. This is like a 3-second keep alive. That's more than enough, I think, to get it through dirty track and whatnot. I mean, so yeah, the front wheels pick up and the tender wheels, you know, this truck picks up on one side and the other truck picks up on the other. So there's enough pickups, I think. And yeah, this actually looks really nice. Let's see how much I could pull. So I have just a random set of cars here. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cars here. Let's see if we can pull this. Look at that. Alright, so, yeah, this looks good. I'm really excited about this engine. I'm going to clean up the wheels a little bit. The contacts, you can see the metal contact strips, which Mehano uses instead of Rivarossi ones. The contacts were hidden, but the Mehano ones have these large copper contacts. So those I'm going to paint black, at least in certain areas. I'm going to paint the wires black here. I'm going to add some lenses on these, the head and the rear light. The headlight looks fine the way it is, and I think I'm going to call it a day there. I'm pretty excited about how this engine turned out. I think it looks nice. I also might actually paint the motor black too. But otherwise, that's pretty much it. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.